So guys, this is my review for Fena Pirate Princess episode 11, and with that guys, let's dive right into this review of episode 11. Let's get it. So guys, this episode 11 was titled At Mission's End, and it was basically, this was more so centered around a Belle, Fena, and Helena, and the title of the episode is At Mission's End, and a few things happened at the beginning, more so here specifically, in which this area where the treasure is called the Earth's, the Vault of the Earth. It had like treasures like the Knights Templar, the Treasure of Las Noches, the Ark of the Covenant, the Holy Grail, a few other things. These are things that Abel was talking about specifically, outlining while they're standing up here. Now, in the meantime, the rest of the crew, Tsubaki and them, they're like hiding out. They eventually come out, but even before that, the captain here, he gets so excited because he's like, he starts running down the steps. He's like, I found it, I found the place, I found the treasure. And then Abel ends up killing him. And then that's when we see that Abel's eyes turn red. We're gonna actually see it in another image in a little bit, but Abel's eyes turn red, and it kind of symbolized to me like it was, it seemed like to me like it was like a notifier for us, the viewer, to say like Abel he's not being overwhelmed or whatever the case by what he sees in front of him. You know, he's staying on his main goal. Again, that's from my perspective. It just seemed like because his eyes turned red, it just seemed like in this moment that he wasn't going to be affected by anything. His main goal was to basically get where Fena and Yukimaru was. So, you know, with that, he basically tells his crew, like, don't focus on this treasure and stuff. We have a task to do, and that is to get to where Fena and Abel is. But in the meantime, again, you know, Tsubaki and them, they end up popping out. They end up, you know, basically saying, even in hiding, like, you know, we're supposed to be Fena and Yukimaru's shield. You know, this is, even if it means that we're going to get hurt, you know, let's do it. So when they come out, they end up actually having a little bit of a fight with the men here besides Abel. Abel ends up going off, heading in the direction of Fena and Yukimaru, but we have a nice little fight scene between, you know, the crew and the men, and the crew just like, you know, they're just like taking Abel's men out with ease. So, but with that, that's when we get to the main focus of the rest of the episode, and that is where Fena and Yukimaru is in the next scene. Now, a couple of things to note, though. I also wanted to mention that Shiton, in that room that I was talking about in last week's episode, where it looked like he was looking at like a lamp, that wasn't the case at all. He was actually looking at this thing that was holding a weapon. It was the sword, this weapon. He was talking about like the size and the width of it, and he's like, this must be, but he didn't get a chance to actually say what that weapon was. But we were able to actually see what that weapon looks like. If I do remember correctly, he did mention this weapon a couple of episodes ago, but off the top of my head at the moment, I can't remember, just because I've only been watching the for the most part the episodes once at a time. But these are the steps here that I did not get a chance to show in last week's episode. These are the steps that lead up, and even like prior to the scene, the skies up above, like the water, and up there, all that stuff looked blue. But because Abel is here, things start to shift. He's staring up at the blue water, the blue sky up above these steps, and then the sky turns red, just like his eyes did. And then there's lightning and stuff. Now, you know, this is occurring once Abel shows up, and it definitely does occur once he gets up the steps and is going towards Fena and Yukimaru, which we're going to go talk about in the next scene. Now, this scene popped up a little bit prior to the Abel scene with the crew, you know, with the rest of the crew, Tsubaki and them. Fena and Yukimaru was actually staring with their backs towards the camera. Basically, they were staring at this. This is the Ark of the Covenant. Look how huge this is, right? But they're here. This is where everything else takes place moving forward. But I definitely wanted to at least show this spot because some things are about to happen that we definitely want to talk about. But again, this is the Ark of the Covenant. Look how huge it is. Like Abel said, a lot of the treasures, what he called the vault of the earth, these are the sacred things of the world's past, and they're here at Eden. And yeah, this is just one of the major things. But again, this is the scene here where everything else is going to take place here in episode 11. Now, like I said, Abel's eyes turned red even prior to getting to where Fena and Yukimura was. And of course, right here, Abel's eyes are red again throughout most of the rest of this portion of the area here. And as you can see, and that's the thing, like, before he started walking towards them, the sky and stuff was blue, everything was clear. But once he showed up, that's when the sky turns red. You see the lightning in the background. All this stuff is happening. Now, throughout the rest of this portion of the episode, a lot of stuff occurs. One of the things I definitely want to say, though, is that, like, Abel, as you can tell with his eyes being red, it looks like he's, like, under some type of spell or control or something. It's like how we've been talking about this witch and everything like that. But what basically happens is that he's looking in the direction of Fena and Yukimura, but he's calling Fena by her mother's name. He keeps saying, like, Helena, this, that, and the third. Like, we're going to be together, this, that, and the third. So he's talking to her, to Fena, but he's claiming her to be Helena. Now, with that, that's when we start to see some stuff happen that looks like it occurred in the past, but I'm really still not sure, just because every action is reacting to what's going on between Fena, Yukimura, and Abel. But, like, basically, like, Yukimura and Abel are fighting, and a lot of their fight, like how they're fighting, it's reenacting what seems to be something that occurred between Fena's father and Abel in the past, including Helena. Just a lot of stuff was going on here in this scene. Again, they were fighting, but it was like everything was flowing just like before, where it seemed like Abel had already come in contact with Helena and Fena's father, which at the moment I can't remember his name at the top of my head. I'm losing my train of thought here, but this whole reenacting of what seemed to be the fight that they had prior to, where Helena was basically trying to stop him from hurting Fena's father. But at the same time, in this fight where Yukimura is the one who's actually fighting, he gets stabbed in his right side, same as Fena's father. Like, it was just interesting stuff. But then that's when this occurs a little bit more into the episode. So I also want to mention too that Cody is actually on his way here. I forgot to mention that in the section of the video prior to this scene, because that was the other thing that I wanted to mention. But again, a whole bunch of stuff was jumbled through my brain trying to remember everything that has been occurring here in episode 11. But as you see here, Helena pops up like a Force ghost, right? Star Wars. She shows up now during the fight with Abel and Yukimura. He ends up cutting Abel's right arm off. But what ends up happening, that, like I said, Helena shows up and Abel is mesmerized. He's in shock. He's mesmerized. His eyes are no longer red. Like, and they have a conversation, just about, like, Helena said that you promised you would come back and you did. Abel's like, I'm here now. We can be together forever. This, that, and the third. But the thing about it is that even prior to him standing here, he is walking towards Helena, and he falls because again his right arm is cut off, so he's losing blood while lying on the ground. he falls, and then he ends up actually dying when he's laying on the ground, like within like seconds, probably 30 seconds. But he ends up having a force ghost. Again, he's standing here, but he's like in force ghost form here, in a sense. But again, they're having this conversation, and again, Helena hugs him. He says that he's unworthy to hug her, but Helena reassures him, like, look, like, you kept your promise. We can go to our place, this, that, and the third. And he then ends up holding her and hugging her, and she's like saying, like, come on, let's go. And then that's when he ends up his force ghost ends up disappearing. Now when this occurs, I was assuming that they both like disappeared and left, but that's not the case at all. Mind you also that the song that Fena and Yukimari was singing that connects everything here, that I was talking about in episode 10 last week, the song was playing in the background while they were talking and stuff like that here, specifically in this scene. But again, at the time when it seemed like both of them had left, I was sitting there thinking like, oh, like, well, she's just leaving, she's bouncing, she's not gonna have a conversation with with Fena, her daughter. But once Abel leaves, she basically says to Fena, like, how you live your life is up to you now. Whatever choice you make, make it, basically telling, like, make it for the best, and then she ends up leaving. But at the same time, I was thinking like they were gonna have like a full on, like, I don't know, 2-3 minute conversation about stuff. That did not occur at all. It was just a real brief 10 to 15 second thing where she said, like, whatever choice you make next, it's up to you. And then she just bounces, she leaves. And I was just like, wow, like, I was kind of taken aback by that. I was like, damn, like, you're not gonna have a, this is your baby. You haven't got, you've only seen your daughter, like, I want to say since she was a child before you left or whatever. So, like, you could have at least had like at least a 5-minute conversation with her, but she ends up leaving. But then this is what happens at the end of episode 11 that is very interesting, but I'm looking forward to episode 12 next week. So like I said, Cody was on his way. They showed Cody at the beginning, like the opening portion of the episode. He was like on the boat. He was staring at I forgot what it's called, but something to deal with time. I can't remember the top of my head, but he basically was saying, like, in that scene, he was saying the time has come. And basically at this, like, him and Abel said it at the same time, but they they switched scenes. But Cody basically said the time has come. Now what you're seeing here is Cody here, but Franz popped up first. So Franz, Fena's father, they showed a specific scene a bit earlier. Like I was mentioning, like, Cody was on his way, he was walking towards this section, but when he was passing some trees, it was like it was switched from Cody to Franz. So that gives you an indication what I'm about to say. So Franz showed up, and he says to Fena and Yukimari that, the roles that you played here ended in their death, talking about Helena and Abel. Fena says to Franz, like, and even Yukimari was like, really, he was like upset, pissed, like, you're here, blah blah blah. And Fena's like, Dad. He's like, that's when Franz says, I'm not your father. He says we are symbols. And then that's when Franz switches to Cody. So then that lets you know, like, Cody isn't human. So there's that. And then that's when Cody says, I am an observer. He says, I am the observer. I am the story maker of the life that is you. And that pretty much ends episode 11 at mission's end. What an episode, guys, that I really, really enjoyed it. And because Cody shows up, this observer, he kind of reminds me of the Watcher from MCU's What If series. Where he says, I'm the observer, basically telling them, like, and he's probably going to be saying some stuff. Again, he's saying like he's a story maker and stuff like that, but he's probably going to end up saying in episode 12 next week, like, I'm just here. I've just been observing, and I don't step in to change anything. I'm just here to watch, this story play out. But at the same time, maybe he has a way to shift, Fena's story in a different way, because he's saying he's the story maker. Like, he writes Fena's life out, and maybe her story has multiple endings, like in a video game. If you're an RPG gamer and stuff like that, like, you have the bad ending and then you have the true ending. Maybe this is the bad ending to Fena. Maybe this is the true ending to Fena's life. Who knows for sure? But this is what Cody's talking to her about. But again, like I said, the episode ends. So, interesting stuff for episode 11 for today, guys. I really did enjoy this episode a lot. And even the music was really good. Even prior to the song that was playing, there was some other music playing back when Abel and his crew got here. Was really, really great. But with that, what did y'all think of episode 11 when you first sat down to watch it for the first time? What did you think of this video? Leave some comments in the comment section below. Let's talk about some things. But other than that, I will talk to y'all next time with more Fena Pirate Princess. Peace, guys.